Hello, listeners. My name is Cliff Ratza. I'm the author of two ongoing series of novels, the Lightning Brain series and its sequel, the Keeper series. And in addition to teaching at universities, having a writing career, and running a sales and marketing consulting business, I'm also Prime Solutions writing coach. Prime Solutions is a full-service author and writer services company offering printing and publishing, graphic design and editing, sales and marketing campaigns, and a writing coach program. If you would like to know more about any of the above, please contact us via the lightningbrainseries.com website. Now, the title of this podcast is The Magic of Thinking. Insights for all, especially authors and writers, which I think all listeners, especially authors and writers, will enjoy, because I will trace its progression from neuroscience all the way to the craft of writing books and novels. No one goes about their day thinking about thinking, because doing so would get in the way of actually getting things done. But what I'll summarize here is the underlying process, which once you know it, you can store it away and retrieve it if you ever need to consider what's actually going on inside your head. So here we go. I have read books and articles and listened to a variety of videos. Among the best are those produced by Harvard neuropsychologist and linguist Steven Pinker. His combined breadth and depth is impressive. And what I'll do is extend what he says to the level of authors and writers in particular. According to current neuroscience, our abilities to feel emotions and think cognitively are emergent properties coming from billions of neurons forming trillions of interneural connections. The alternative to this approach is to consider a spiritual homunculus inside our head speaking to us. But this fanciful belief leads to an infinite regress that science says is implausible. So here is the trajectory of thinking that takes us all the way to writing. Start with neuroscience. And those are the intra and interneural reactions that lead to actual thinking, which is an emergent property. And thinking, has two components. There's the cognitive piece and the emotional piece. And that leads to the study of psychology, for which linguistics is one piece, and linguistics considers language, and writing is a part of language. So let's delve a little bit into linguistics, which is the scientific approach to unraveling language. Noam Chomsky pioneered about a century ago X-bar theory, which is a mathematical, logic-like formulation of grammar, syntax, and semantics that comprises a precise theory of diagramming or parsing sentences. But linguistics can never approach the rigor of mathematical logic, because language is illogical, incomplete, and self-referential, because the human brain is constructed that way. However, linguists have come up with approximations that get us through life, which is pretty much as good as it gets and as good as we need. Linguists divide linguistics into three branches: phonology, or words and their phonemes for building up a vocabulary; X-bar phrase structure rules that guide the construction of sentences, paragraphs, chapters, and beyond. These are the grammar, syntax, and semantics rules. And then there are interfaces, that is, speaking and writing. Experimental studies by linguists suggest an average high school graduate's vocabulary totals 60,000 words, which can double throughout life if a person stays active mentally. Linguists have concluded that language is a universal talent. Every society ever studied possesses a sophisticated ability to communicate. This talent includes phonology, grammar, and pragmatics. I've already described phonology and grammar, but what is pragmatics? Well, it is the practical, daily use of language. Linguists point out three things that language is not. Language is not writing. Unlike speaking, which humans do naturally, writing has to be taught. Language is not so-called proper or prescriptive grammar. Pragmatics pays attention to descriptive grammar, that is, how people speak to get the job done. And language is not necessarily thinking. Language is a subset of thinking. Humans often think via emotions and pictures in their heads. It's like show, don't tell. And linguistics point out the brain's seemingly unlimited capacity to hold language items, such as words and vocabularies and meanings. For those who have read Arthur Conan Doyle's Sherlock Holmes books, you might recall that Holmes limited what he would read or study. He compared the mind to an attic that had limited storage capacity. But fortunately, that's not the way the brain is built. The more we learn, the more we can learn. So we've traced for all listeners the chain of thinking to the level they work at. The pragmatics of thinking and then speaking or writing in their particular area of expertise. So now let's look a bit deeper into the pragmatics from the perspective of an author of novels. The obvious starting point is for the author to decide what genre his book fits in. This will determine the why and the what. Why am I writing this novel? And what will the readers expect? And you might want to look at one of my previous podcasts, the one titled The 21st Century Fiction Landscape, which explains the why and what in order for authors to create high-impact novels that stir reader emotions via storylines of appealing characters grounded in the worldview reality of the novel. Readers of each genre have expectations regarding what type of characters and storyline they'll get. Of course, that doesn't mean they know anything in advance about the characters or plot nuances. They want to discover that as they turn the pages. But you, the author, must promise to fulfill their wish. Now that you have marked the boundaries of your book, you can let your creativity run free. Pick a theme for the story. That's some timeless issue the human condition poses, and elaborate it in the thesis, a set of particular events and challenges and obstacles your protagonist will face. And do yourself a big favor. Identify starting and ending, and then map out via the three-act story arc plot points and turning points. The first act occupies 25% of the pages. The second act, also known as the marathon of the middle, accounts for 50%, and the third for the remaining 25%. Most authors love creating the startings and endings. The craft of writing requires the patience and persistence to fill in and then write that marathon of the middle. And now we come to the how. How to actually paint your masterpiece, using words on the page like paint on a canvas to emblazon in your reader's mental eye what your words are showing when telling. I have written an entire series of articles posted on the Prime Solutions Writing Coach website that describe the how of writing a novel. Some are also available on the lightningbrainseries.com website, and some of my podcasts help you learn more about the how pieces of crafting a novel by going over them. And here are some. You must choose a primary POV, that's point of view, for writing, most often third or first person. Then adapt your unique writing voice or style to the particulars of this genre and novel you're putting together. And now comes the most important how piece. Pay attention to your grammar, syntax, and semantics. Today's reviewers and readers grant writers much more leeway today on grammar than ever before, but you should strive for consistency. You might want to limit the amount of backstory and flashback you weave in. The choice is yours. Just make sure you think the balance through. I am going to point out two grammar type books that I really like and use. Here is William Strunk and E.B. White's Elements of Style. This is a classic written midway through the 20th century, and it provides a lot of practical advice, very easy to understand and apply. And here is Steven Pinker's 21st Century Update. It's Sense of Style, Steven Pinker's, this is The Thinking Person's Guide to Writing in the 21st Century. Excellent books to read, and simply read them frequently so you'll internalize all of the points they are, stressing. Writing a novel, like a professional author does, takes practice, just like the practice needed to become skilled in any endeavor. I'll use a simple example from my experience. I took golfing lessons when I became a sales rep because golfing is a time-honored part of the job. Well, my golfing coach gave me all the pointers for swinging the club, all the way from positioning and turning my head, through shoulder and hip rotation, and arm positioning through striking the ball, and finally to leg and arm follow-through, culminating in wrist and club position. Well, there were so many points to think about when addressing the ball, I couldn't swing. I just kept thinking and thinking. When learning about the magic of thinking, remember enough of the magical points to remain in awe of this most human talent, and then internalize them. Make them part of your instincts. All authors and writers, please note that no writer thinks about all the details I have summarized. Authors simply sit down and blast out the words as they operate in the pantser mode. Then they will revise when in a more thoughtful planner mode. Well, I've said enough, so why don't you listeners take my words and use them as you think best? After all of you possess that most magical talent of thinking. And I thank you for listening. Best wishes until next time.